back.
We're back, and we're in the Bronx.
The BX, the boogie down.
This isn't the boogiest part of the boogie
well, it's
down,
all the
is
boogie
it?
Down.
It is all the boogie down.
We're gonna give our shout out to the Bronx, a borough that I have to say today was my first time riding the 5 train in this direction.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Hold it.
Yeah.
You never go to Yankee Stadium?
Never, honestly, I can walk to Yankee Stadium from my house.
Oh, yeah,
and
good point.
From my house, if I get on the train to Yankee Stadium, I take the D train 2 stops, and I'm at Yankee Stadium, so I don't have to get on a number train to go to
All right,
Yankee
well,
Stadium.
I have ridden the 5 train in that direction, but not to this part.
Oh, yeah, and this is, I'm going to let you finish, by the way.
This is not the MTA guideline hotline. This is the, I'm going to let you finish with, who are you?
With Black Oprah.
And White Gail King.
Thank you very much. So, Gail.
Yes,
There was a blackout this weekend in New York.
Okay, so here's the thing. So I'm in Brooklyn, and I'm on my way to a absolutely fantastic show at Celebrate Brooklyn, Salif Keita.
Amazing.
I will say one thing that we do really well in New York is we do put on those good free shows.
Absolutely.
And I will say there's something I always associate with New York in the summer is African music. I don't know, it just seems to... You get a good.
That's the time when we get a lot of those free outside shows and all the different summer stages.
Right, and so this was a great show. Salif Keita, just magnificent singer. Anyway, long story short, I'm on my way there. I get a text from my good friend Rob, and he says, "Hey, I'm in the city. Is there a blackout in Brooklyn?" And I'm thinking, are we talking in code? No, there is no blackout. And I said, no, not that I. And so nobody was talking about it.
Yeah,
obviously,
I was in Brooklyn too. Nobody was.
Nothing. The lights were
people
on.
People started hitting me, being like, "There's a blackout. There's a blackout." I'm like, I'm sitting outside.
I'm sitting outside, and it's black out, but there is no blackout. Yes. So yes, there was a blackout.
Yeah.
It's the anniversary of the big blackout, right?
And you know what's the one thing that managed to invade the blackout and insert herself into it?
All right.
The person who terrorizes me the most.
Okay.
Jennifer Lopez.
I thought about Jennifer Lopez when I got off the train today because I thought, is this Jenny from the Block territory? Are we in Jenny from the Block territory?
She's relentless. I'm like, how did you even end up in this blackout story? You won't stop. Every week there's a new song that no one's ever going to play. There's a tour. Courtney and now there's a blackout. I get home about not hearing about this blackout, get home in a $90 car. It cost me $90 to get home.
I'm not going to reiterate the fact that you were 2 blocks from my house, and if you just fucking called me, I would have said you can crash on the couch, but that's neither here nor there, and save yourself $90. But continue with your story.
Well, that was because I was being cursed by Jennifer Lopez, who decided to terrorize me, because then I get home, turn on the TV, what's the first thing I see? Not the story of the blackout. The story of the blackout and Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah, so it seems like there was this blackout, and Jennifer Lopez was having her 50, I don't know, show at the Garden. She sold out. She had 2 nights at the Garden. She had done one night where she sang all of her hits, and this is no disrespect to Jennifer Lopez. She's great. I'm sure she's a blast at parties, whatever. And then the second night, she was 5 songs in, and that's the night that the lights went out in Georgia.
Which means that was the end of the show.
That was the end of the show.
She sang all 5 songs that you wanted to hear at the beginning, and everybody was leaving. And then the lights went out.
So she didn't have a chance to do all the 75 remixes of the Pitbull song. But here's my thing. Okay, so first off, on a positive note, nobody was hurt during the blackout. Nobody was harmed. People were stuck in elevators, but it wasn't bad. There was no looting. There was no this.
Yeah, we're resilient in New York. A little blackout, we're like,
it was
fine. We can through this.
Okay, so here's my issue with the Jennifer Lopez blackout thing. Okay, first off, aren't there generators at Madison Square Garden?
There are, but they did come on, but they don't. The generators are never going to be strong enough to put on a show.
No. I'm just talking about the idea that. Yeah. So Jennifer Lopez's statement afterwards was something along the lines of, "I'm heartbroken. This is tragic," and I'm like, heartbroken? I mean, you can reschedule. Which she has.
Right.
I just thought that her response, she acted as though someone had been Ariana Grande performing at a show and people dying in front of you would be tragic. That's tragic
absolutely.
and heartbreaking.
Yeah, this is true.
Someone tripping over an electrical cord and shorting out a third of Manhattan. not so much.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, but anyway, the important thing is that she somehow managed to make it about herself.
She somehow managed to make it about herself.
And she managed, and I will tell you, as soon as I saw that, the J-Lo connection.
Did you think of me?
I did think of you because I know that you were
terror.
You're terror.
Terror.
I don't know why. And she seems like a really nice girl. But I feel like we're in her neighborhood, so we
and
might
shout out
want
to
be
my
careful.
friend Kim, who actually works with Jennifer. Shout out. And the funny thing was, I was actually invited to the show on Saturday. And I said to a friend of mine, I was like, no, I don't think I want to go see that. I'm so glad. If I had been
You need to face your fears.
Well,
you need to look at J-Lo in the face and say,
speaking of the
I'm
garden,
not scared of you, J-Lo.
I am facing my fears because being a New York Knicks fan, a.k.a. a long-suffering fool, I am facing my fears because every year I think, this is our year. This is our year. This is our year. We're going to make all the moves in the offseason. And I've really come to the conclusion.
Now, the garden is cursed.
Yeah. It's kind of
Actually,
cursed,
you know what
right?
would be a great idea if there was a blackout during the entire 2019-2020 Knicks season? We would be winning.
It just seems like we're never going to get right.
Ever.
And when I kept watching all of these like basketball analysts, and a lot of them are former players, whenever the Knicks come up, they all were laughing on ESPN. No one's coming to the fucking Knicks.
They're laughing at us.
No one's coming to the Knicks.
No.
And then I would always be like, that's bullshit. Someone's going to be like, I'm going to be this person who's going to want to come. But they're absolutely right. No one wants to come to. I mean, they're like, we're coming to Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving has a whole campaign where he keeps singing, I'm coming home. I'm like, you grew up in New Jersey.
Well, he's the flat earther. He probably not really quite sure.
You played ball in New Jersey.
I know, but
what's with this video of you on the Brooklyn Bridge like, I'm coming home?
Maybe
like,
he thinks the Nets are still in Jersey because he doesn't believe in basic physics and geography and stuff like that. So maybe he... Yeah, you know, I was overseas a couple of weeks ago, and with my limited... internet connection because I refuse to pay that $10 a month, $10 a day to fucking Verizon. Fuck you all. Right. I know how to say where's your Wi-Fi account in any language.
In any language, the symbol for Wi-Fi is the
same. Wi-Fi, you know. But and I started reading this stuff. All right, let me be honest. I am a long time basketball fan, lifelong Knicks fan, but at a certain point I do kind of fake it in terms of my actual knowledge of what's going on.
Right.
So I pretend to be like, oh yeah, that sucks. But even I, in my state of faking stuff, knew that this was really, really bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's bad. I mean, I just feel like that we literally could like win a game and somehow it would turn out that we actually hadn't.
Right, it's true.
And you know why everything sucks? Say his name.
Jim motherfucking Dolan.
James motherfucking Dolan. I think that right now the two most hated white men in New York City are Bill de Blasio.
We could have a whole show on that one. And James Dolan.
And Bill de Blasio at least is tall, and there's a possibility he might be able to play basketball, although he's old.
Or not to jump back to the blackout, Bill de Blasio, who wasn't even here, and then didn't even rush back. And when I saw his press conference, he was like, well, you know, listen, there are phones and communication.
Yeah,
I was calling all the people I needed to call. I'm like, you needed to be here. You're the mayor of New York. There was just a major blackout for 5 hours. Cuomo, who seems to always be in New York City, was here.
Listen, de Blasio called J-Lo. She told him it was okay. She rescheduled the show, and it was all good. But getting back to the Knicks. So anyway,
and he's actually the feature singer on her new song coming out this week.
That's right, Bill de Blasio calling, I'm not going to win. Ever. How fucking scary would it be if he ends up, like, actually becoming a major player in this campaign?
Well, here's the funny thing about Bill de Blasio.
There is a funny thing about him?
Yes, because...
and then we have to get back to the Knicks.
Okay, he's not been all the way terrible as the mayor with some of the things that he's done.
No, he's done some good stuff.
But he's such an unlikable person.
He's a dick.
That it's like you can't even look at those things and say,
no,
this is great. It's like, I hate you.
He's done some really good stuff. He's actually done some really good progressive, universal health, universal childcare, minimum wage, the ID New York City program, Sanctuary City stuff. He's done, but he's just such a fucking dick that you're looking at him like you're a dick.
And, you know, he takes all of that developer money, and he's done a couple of things that really have reshaped the city that I don't like. But, you know, that's any city. Every city is changing. So
That's
I can't
true.
sit here and just say it's New York. Every city is changing.
All right, but speaking of changing, when are we going to get about? Do you remember, Courtney? We're about the same age. Do you remember when New York City had a basketball team?
I do remember when New York City had a basketball team.
Yeah, me too. It was great. Okay, so here's the thing. So everybody now is like rah 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 Nets. Now, again, I grew up in Long Island, born in New York. I live right near Barclays. I could never get into the Nets because it's like. I grew up with the Knicks. I grew up with the Knicks. I grew up though
the Nets were New Jersey, man,
and also Long Island, and then New Jersey. But even though stylistically, obviously, black and white looks much better on than orange and blue. You look crazy, but I was an orange and blue girl. But now, I mean, what am I rooting for if I stay with the Knicks? Who's there?
And the crazy part is, it still costs like almost $1,000 to go see them.
I know.
To go see them lose. You can't even name 5 people on the team, and the tickets are so expensive to go.
No, they traded the 2 people whose names I can think of offhand.
But here's the thing too. Everybody keeps screaming, okay, KD and Kyrie is going to be great. We'll see, right? Because we know KD is not playing for at least a year.
Right.
And Kyrie, which version of Kyrie is going to show up?
Right.
Are we going to get I have my period every 2 weeks, Kyrie?
Hey.
Listen, he acts very hormonal. He gets
all right, so maybe he's just being hormonal. Why do you got to blame it on his period?
Because that's the way he acts.
Oh, yeah? Well.
That's the way he acts. So if we get, I'm doing great, I feel great, I'm coming to play, Kyrie, great. If we get the brooding, I'm upset, Kyrie, then I think Brooklyn is going to be disappointed. But either way, they made the moves to really make themselves a world-class organization.
What's really sad, though, is just when you realize that nobody wants to come here.
Yeah, man. We're the #1 market in the country. And, to call the Madison Square Garden the Mecca, and I think for these younger generation of
it don't
players,
mean anything.
They don't see that because they don't know great basketball at Madison Square Garden anymore. What they know is a team that has been in complete management disarray for years and years and years. And after watching how Jim Dolan has even treated past Knicks,
we need a Donald Sterling situation.
Right.
Anybody out there listening who has any incriminating information?
I'm going to need you, Amy. You have to get in there. You have to seduce Jim Dolan in some weird way so we can cause a scandal and get him out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Actually, if you seduced him in some weird way, it would be much more scandalous than if I did.
Well, because when I was younger, but now that I'm in my 50s, I only have one ab. So nobody wants the one ab. It'll be like, hey, here's my one ab. You want to rub it? I don't think that's going to really
that won't work. Well, anyway, so when we were putting together this week's show, we were thinking, we wanted to think of a theme, and we went, you never go wrong with men behaving badly. And we've been sort of joking around about de Blasio being a jerk, and Jim Dolan, obviously, the Knicks, basketball is just another circumstance where groups of men just disappoint me on levels. But there is some serious poor male behavior going on these days. So why don't we just start with, the greatest hits this week? Our friend Jeffrey, well, not our friend. I take that back.
Right.
Jeffrey Epstein, who to me really does look like every other head of A&R in any other record company.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah, he really does.
Yeah. Right. Every time I hear the details of this story, and you think about the groups of powerful men that are in his circle,
and women, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of head scratching because we all know the shit that our friends do. Even if we don't say certain things, you see things, you know things. The amount of stuff that they're talking about in his jets and all of this, you're like, nobody knew that they were. And I hate when they always say underage women. I'm like, underage women means girls and children.
Children. No, these are
Stop. Call it what it is.
I have noticed in the last couple of days you hear people more and more stop with this underage women, and they're just saying
what it is.
Kids.
Yeah.
Children.
It's
like when they say sexual abuse instead of rape.
Yeah, call it what it is.
It's rape. He was raping kids.
And to me, it's just mind-boggling that we are in a time that all of this stuff has been politicized. There used to be a point where we could all agree. It didn't matter where you came from, what you look like, who you voted for. That fucking with kids was a bad thing.
It's bad.
There were racism is a bad thing.
No, there were certain things that were just like, it's sort of like, don't make fun of blind people.
Right.
Don't steal from charities.
No.
Don't trip old people. Basic rules of stuff. And now
don't
it's
eat
like
McDonald's after 10 p.m. You do it earlier
right, exactly.
when the quarter pounder with cheese is fresh.
Do not mix, don't put mayonnaise on a bacon
sandwich. Don't put mayonnaise on anything.
Thank
disgusting.
you. Disgusting. Unless it's French fries and you're in a foreign country.
No, that's still disgusting.
In a foreign country. In a foreign country.
Yeah. But,
all right, but the point is we're kind of making fun of Jeffrey Epstein. I think
because it's disgusting.
It's disgusting. And it is really disgusting to me, the level of whataboutism going on with him.
Right.
It's like, look, it would be a lovely icing on a pervert cake when he talks, he brings down Trump. But it would also be great if he brought down Clinton. I don't care who he brings down.
Trump is
him.
like Teflon, man. The one thing about him is he really is like Teflon. And that comes from no ever paper trail ever leads to him.
Right.
Because he doesn't email. So people can say, well, I said this to him. And he'd be like, prove it. No, you didn't.
Well, no, I mean, I think that what I'm saying is that the fact that people are couching this, like, well, what about Bill Clinton? It's like, okay, maybe Bill Clinton had a hand in this too. Good. Get rid of him too. But the only difference being Bill Clinton is currently not president.
Right.
So, I mean, that Bill Clinton is a horn dog and a sleazebag, I think has been long established. I just don't...
But aren't we seeing now that basically all of these powerful men end up being horn dogs and sleazebags?
Well, I mean, you get away with what you can get away with. I mean, what is, like I said, the whole thing that's absolutely astounding, and it speaks to, as we've discussed and other people have discussed, the fact that women are just not valued in this fucking world at all.
And I hate that that's even true by other women, because I see some of the conversation and you see that there are women connected to some of this, and I'm like, wow.
But women who would probably have been abused themselves.
It's just it's
awful.
I just the thought of I don't know. It's just I can't even find the words for it, because when I hear it and I listen to the stories and this dude, getting some sweetheart deal from Acosta, and it's like,
but that's what I'm saying. This is the power structure. Yeah. This is the idea that not that I know anything about law, though I do watch Law and Order regularly. This deal that Alexander Acosta, former, soon to be, I'm sure, Fox commentator Alexander Acosta, worked out. Every lawyer I saw on TV said, you never asked the prosecution, so how would you like this to go?
Right.
You're supposed to let people know, like, when the deal is being made.
But that's the power of money in this country.
Right.
If you have money in America and you have power with that money,
well, that's what I'm saying.
You can shift everything
Epstein's
in your direction.
money is such that the fact that he happened to be a somewhat liberal Democrat, money, no pun intended, trumps all of it.
Yep.
That's the party that they care about. But another thing that's really kind of upset me, and I'm seeing this more on my Facebook feed among people I would think would be a little fucking sharper on this, is this sort of like, basically, why aren't white people as upset about this as black people were about R. Kelly, or something? Basically meaning like, because these were little white girls getting raped, it's somehow worse. First of all, right. I have a feeling that not Acosta, Freudian slip. I have a feeling that Epstein was an equal opportunity pervert.
Right.
I get the sense, I saw one woman interviewed on TV, and she looked to me to be Hispanic, that he just knew how to hone in on those,
right.
On the vulnerable.
Absolutely.
But this shouldn't even be a conversation about Trump.
Which pervert is worse?
Yeah.
They're all bad.
They're all bad. They're all bad.
Yeah. I hate that sort of when people start measuring up. It was the same thing with Bill Cosby. When he was getting into trouble, I heard so many people saying, well, Harvey Weinstein did this. I'm like, all of that's irrelevant. They all should go to jail.
Right.
All of them.
Yeah,
and we
make
should
an island.
all be standing in line to help push all of them in jail.
Yeah, I mean,
not saying this one is worse than this one. Think about the girls. Think about these young girls. Because, when we have this conversation...
And boys, in some cases.
We keep forgetting how it is to be 13, 14. Hormones are coming into play. Some older person is suddenly giving you this attention at a time in your life where you're trying to discover and explore. It's the most evil thing.
No, it's evil and manipulative.
World.
But again, it speaks volumes to how, this country hates children. We like,
among other things,
we like
blacks,
right.
gays,
well, children, all children.
Yeah.
I mean, children, black, gay, whatever they. We like fetuses. We're very concerned with making sure that people keep fetuses.
But once they come out,
you're on your own.
Right.
I will tell you that. I mean, and again, it's not. I can't make a generalization, but I will anyway, because why not? I was overseas a couple weeks ago, and I never saw one mother screaming at their kid. And you can tell screaming in any language.
This is true.
And kids act up in other countries too.
Kids act up everywhere.
And I never saw that look on a parent's face of, I wish I had never fucking had you.
Right.
And you see that look on parents' face a lot.
Well, that's because, here in America, and I think about this for myself, the pressure of just everyday life and expenses, living here by myself. Like, how much it costs me to go grocery shopping, just for one person. Everything I do for one person.
Well, what
Can you imagine? But I'm just saying, I see the parents' frustration in America because the worries for your kid here are so much different than a lot of other places.
Oh, I don't know.
The cost of trying to raise, but I mean in a different way, trying to raise your kids in this country is really expensive. So I see, shout out to all those parents that are always stressed because I know it's stress just living here.
But that gets back to what I'm saying, the basic, so my point being, that gets back to the basic lack of regard we have for children. Yeah. We really don't give a fuck about children. We give a fuck about people having babies. We celebrate the baby bump and the industry of having a child. But once you have the kid, unless you have money, you're on your own. You're shamed if you can't take care of it.
You're shamed if you carry the baby the wrong way.
Right. You're shamed if you do this. You're shamed if you do that. So these sort of crimes, the fact that's,
Aren't you glad you had your kid at a time when there was no social media and all of that?
Oh my God.
So you could just raise your son and make the mistakes that every parent
Oh my God.
Without a group of people online being like, I can't believe you're carrying your baby like that. Why does your baby have this on? It's crazy.
Oh my God. All I had to put up with was all the little black kids on my street going, how come he don't have Nikes? I'm like, because he can't walk. Right. What's wrong with him? But anyway, the point.
Move forward to all these years later. Now he's working at Nike.
Yeah. So there. But what I'm saying is the fact that you have the level. It actually speaks again to the hatred of women, and the hatred of children that you have. You would think, like with Epstein, someone like Epstein, who is known to be on a more liberal democratic side of thing. You would think for Trump that would be a fabulous opportunity for him to, in his cynical, evil way, skewer. Even he hasn't said he sided with Acosta. Trump. Right. He has. Did. No one has ever said one word about these women.
Well, if you're Donald Trump and you've had
20
and a rape allegation that from a couple of weeks ago, you're not going to touch the women's side, right? He's going to avoid all of that. And
that woman, by the way, E. Jean Carroll, who is a great writer, and if any of you have not read her account in New York Magazine, please read it because it is chilling, because you're reading this thinking, holy shit, this is the president of the United States. And there's not a line in that does not ring true.
And the thing that's funny about whenever these stories about him comes out, the thing that people like about him, and especially his supporters, was his attitude, the gruffness. But then they can't believe
that he would do
any of the terrible things that people say. I'm like, but you like him because you like that terrible shit. Like, over this weekend, him telling the 4 female congresswomen to...
Well, I want to get back to Eugene just for 1 second.
Yeah.
I just read today that she's looking into legal action against him.
So there's no statute of limitation?
She's looking into it. She's looking to see if there might possibly be. But, I like I said, I just find it...
How does this happen? I remember when the election was coming and everybody on Fox was saying... When he was going against Hillary Clinton, how can we have a candidate or a president who's under any kind of investigation or anything? We can't have that happen. And now every other week it's something, and they're like, well, we don't believe those women. We don't believe this.
Yes, but that's, I mean, we get this is the complete hypocrisy. The Democrats do it too, but not to the extent the Republicans.
Democrats are terrible.
The Republicans are scorched earth. Okay, there is. footage of people like Lindsey Graham and all these people ripping Trump and calling him every name, every which way but loose, in private that most Republicans are like, Jesus fucking Christ, this guy's an idiot.
Right.
But they want that Supreme Court. Again, they want...
Well, they got it.
They want taxes and fetuses. Right. That's all the Republicans care.
They got it. When does somebody stand up and say, this is not the America?
Never.
They were supposed to be the party of the Constitution.
It's never going to happen.
It's being trampled all over.
They don't care. But you know what the thing...
And then the Democrats are eating their own. They're eating each other.
Well, no, the thing is because... First off, they don't teach civics in school anymore. They don't teach government. Right. So if you were to grab the average 20-something-year-old, okay, let's say a first-time voter, and say, 3 branches of government, name them.
Right.
So they don't even realize that he's, when they talk about the new normal, they don't even realize he's doing something that's wrong. Okay, you know what it's analogous to? All right, so you and I grew up in New York, and we used tokens, right, on the subway.
Yep.
And then they said, we're going to phase out tokens. We're going to use MetroCard. MetroCards, oh my God, how am I going to do that?
Right.
Okay, now they're phasing out MetroCards, and they're going to use like the Oyster card. They're going to use a pass. Well, if you're my son's age, who's 30, or if you're younger, that's no big deal to you to do this because you were raised doing that. But
and it's probably more convenient.
It's
like
more
one
convenient.
Less thing, yeah.
Right. So if you're someone who has only kind of known this kind of politics, who's grown up in a Fox era, internet, that kind of politics, then it doesn't seem that strange to you that you have Supreme Court justices giving paid speeches somewhere. It doesn't seem that strange to you that you have someone who's accused of rape because, you've grown up watching musicians that you like. You've grown up seeing people not paying the price. I mean, we've discussed, the R. Kelly thing, right? Which in a really weird...
The 20-something-year open secret.
Right, exactly. And it's so funny, not funny. There's somewhat irony of it that the week that the Epstein thing again.
Yes.
Difference being that Epstein actually is a convicted sex offender.
Yes, he is. And you were telling me he's the lowest level.
Lowest level. He basically, there are people who say PP that are like he's like the lowest level. Went from like you have to register. He has to register, which means nothing because he works for himself. So what the fuck,
This is true.
It's not like he's trying to get a job, out of school.
Right.
But R. Kelly was this week or last week. There were more charges brought against him.
I believe 2 felony charges.
Yeah,
through the
major
New York courts.
Yeah, New York and Chicago.
Yeah.
I don't know how New York got involved.
Because evidently he had people flown to New York.
Oh, so it was like Mann Act stuff.
Yeah, and once you cross those state lines, and if I guess there's video footage because some of his ex-employees have turned in some tapes supposedly. So some of that happened in New York, and that's how they got him in New York. These crimes happened here, so we're coming after you here in New York.
Well, it's first off complete and sincere. Like shout out to Jim DeRogatis, who was the reporter who broke this story. Has been working on this story for 20 years. And just put out a book. Shout out to Dream Hampton and her crew with the documentary.
Out to my girl Dream.
And working with Jim. I mean, Jim deserves a Pulitzer for this because this is like not letting go of a story.
And I will say, every time he went to put out an album, Jim was on it.
Yep.
And that story came right back. It came right back. And I will say a lot of the fans, a lot of the women, I will say black women stood up. Every time he tried to do, remember they tried to do a question and answer session with him on Twitter.
Right.
And it got shut down 2 minutes into it.
Right.
People immediately were like...
But the R. Kelly thing, I mean, and we've discussed this and everyone out there has discussed this. I mean, this is, everybody clutching their pearls about this. Like, he married Aaliyah. And the story could have ended right there.
Very true.
And then again, and this is where you get into this ridiculous, what about him? Well, how about what Elvis did? Well, how about what Jerry Lee? I actually had a conversation, and I'm using that on Facebook with I don't even know this guy. He's a fucking idiot. Okay, he's a friend of a friend, but he's just a fucking idiot who's like, well, I mean, selective outrage. So are we supposed to stop listening to David Bowie and Jimmy Page? I was like, all right, you know what? I don't have time. Yeah, all right, they did terrible things. Are you seriously comparing what R. Kelly and Jeffrey Epstein did to David Bowie having sex with a 14-year-old? What did David Bowie did wrong? Yes.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But my thing is this. What I hate that people have a tendency to do, because it really does diminish the young ladies, is when somebody comes up with a situation, instead of us dealing with that situation, we always throw back to, well, what about this person?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's the whataboutism, right?
I'm like, how about let's look at this situation directly in front of us and judge it. Each one stands on its own.
All right. So what do you think you have? You think Kelly's going to do jail time?
I think R. Kelly is like O.J. Simpson. They will find a way to get him in jail.
It might not be on this. It'll be they'll probably get him on tax
They're
stuff.
going to find the way to get him. However, they want him off the streets. So I do believe that he is one of those people, like O.J. Simpson, who just won't stop, and they're going to get that thing that they need to put him in jail.
Well, I mean, I think ultimately with O.J., wasn't it some very, very amplified charges on something that he normally...
in the beginning, that nobody would have gone... It was a den of thieves. People were recording him. It was a whole den of thieves where they all should have either just been arrested and thrown out. Nobody should have gone to jail. But he gave them what they needed to get him in jail. And I think that's what it will be with R. Kelly.
Well, the thing is, R. Kelly at this point, I mean, he has...
They just want him off the street. They will find
He has no money. I mean, I'm assuming.
Which is... listen, I know he can't read and he can't write, the illiterate thing.
Right.
But to me, how is that not mystifying to you?
Well, because, I mean, he's spending if it is to be believed that he is running the level of criminal enterprise that he is running, it's expensive.
Absolutely. But I also know that he has publishing on songs like I Believe I Can Fly.
Right.
He's got publishing on...
Right, he's not broke. We're not going to be doing a
He's got publishing on Michael Jackson. So, like, really big songs that every year should be bringing publishing checks. He, for a long time, stayed on the road, which is where a lot of artists make a lot of their money.
Right.
And he writes all his own shit.
Right, so but I'm just saying, I mean, when they say he's broke, I think what they mean is in terms of what he no longer has... income. He's no longer recording. He's dead as a recording artist.
He was sitting but the last album he put out was maybe 2 years ago.
Was it that?
Yes. Wow. He's been putting out records. RCA quietly dropped him, but he was on RCA the entire time.
Well, listen, RCA dropped. I mean, RCA dropped him because he wasn't selling any records anymore. I mean, for RCA...
No, that's actually not why they dropped him. They dropped him because this whole situation...
I know,
and Sony is finally being smart to realize... we cannot be in the business of these people who constantly, even if it's an allegation, constantly having that kind of allegation.
Yeah, but these allegations have been, I mean, not to get our way off field, but these allegations have been going on for years. So
absolutely, but nobody, because no one cares until this time. People are organized in a different way about it.
And also we heard from the girls.
And when Being R. Kelly aired, I think that was the moment where
we heard from them, we saw them. When you can literally... see somebody,
because after that aired, he had an album finished that he thought he was releasing through RCA, and they were like, we're not putting this out, and that's when I think he realized the jig was up with his label, and they were like,
so you think he'll do jail time?
I think they will find a way to get him in jail.
How about Epstein? Do you think he'll do jail time?
Absolutely.
Do you think or will he just disappear?
At this point, I believe both of them will do jail time.
Okay.
Both of them. Because
the reason I think that Epstein will do jail time is because the Southern District of New York has him, and they don't give a flying fuck.
Right.
They're not beholden to anybody. Speaking of jail time, all right, am I supposed to care about A$AP Rocky?
Oh, I keep forgetting we're supposed to talk about this.
No, I think we're supposed to care. You keep forgetting we're supposed to care. Well, because I will tell you, some people on Facebook care very deeply.
And then others are letting his words from a... background story in case anybody doesn't know this. In 2015, he did an interview with Time Out in New York. And this was around the time of Ferguson.
Right.
And he had some very clear statements about, I'm not a political activist.
Right.
I'm not Al Sharpton.
Right. I just want to get high and fuck white girls.
And I live I'm up in these fashion houses. I'm up in these bitches' drawers. I live in Soho and Beverly Hills. I can't relate. I go back to Harlem. It's not the same. So I find it really interesting now that he's in this position, seeing the debate of people online being like, fuck him, we shouldn't care about him, he didn't care about us, and it leads to a bigger story, especially in the black community. It's like, do we constantly have to stand up for people who don't really stand up for their community.
Right.
When the time comes for them to say something.
Right.
Now, when they're in trouble, do we all rally and say, but still, you're part of our community. If we're going to have this fight, we have to fight for you too.
Well, here's the thing. I don't want to see anybody falsely imprisoned.
Neither do I. Well,
though, if I had to be falsely imprisoned, a jail in Sweden, from what I've seen,
well, here's the question I have to ask. Is it a false imprisonment? We see him on tape, Molly. People are saying the guy was annoying him. I just saw a little bit of tape, and what I saw was a guy being thrown like a rag doll.
But then there's supposedly there's something before where the guys break headphones over the bodyguard's head. I mean, all said, it seems to me that
I don't want to see anybody in jail. Let me just say that. I don't want
to see anybody falsely imprisoned.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do think it is imperative, and I think that the State Department has gotten involved.
Have they?
Yeah, well, meaning when you're in, one of the things about being an American is we seem to forget that when you're in another country, it's like you don't get to drag out the Constitution and go, but look, it says right here, you can't do this to me. Right. It's like, yeah, they can. So, at least we're dealing with a rational country, and I would like to think that their jails look like IKEA. I did see something on 60 Minutes once, and again, not that I want anyone to go to jail, but I mean, Jesus Christ, like the food looks really good and sweet. No, I'm serious. It's like an amazing.
Is that your takeaway from the jail? You're like, the meals were fabulous.
Well, I catered
the lunch. It was amazing.
No, but I'm saying it's not like he's being thrown into Rikers.
Well, you hear the stories, the way they were making it sound, it was like there's feces on the wall.
Yeah. That's what somebody said. Like, now somebody printed actually the menu.
Right.
And I was
they have a printable menu for the jail in Sweden.
That's what I'm saying. Come on, you probably get to have like songwriting classes with ABBA. It's probably great.
Shout out to ABBA.
Shout out to ABBA. Ace of Base. Come on. The point being, I don't want to see anybody in jail if they're falsely accused. I also, though, can understand there's a bit of, I can't pronounce the word, schadenfreude, where you take pleasure in the pain of others. Yeah. So when you have a guy who's basically spent the last 3 years going, fuck you, I don't give a damn, look at me, I'm cute, I'm doing this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden it's like, boo, you're black and you're in jail. You can't go, oh, wait, everybody
And that's when
help
you realize,
me.
where are your friends from the fashion houses in Soho?
They don't give a fuck.
Are they coming to get you now? And
No.
I do think as the black community, I'm mad at what he said. I hated it. I am glad to see the support of people being like, we will fight for you despite of yourself.
Well, not for nothing,
in spite of yourself.
I mean, not for nothing. He's accused of something in the scheme of things that's kind of low on the criminal totem pole. This is not Bobby Shmurda.
No, it's not. But here's the thing.
Why has he not been bailed out?
Well, because different countries have different rules. This isn't America. You know what I mean? You do some shit in different countries, and unfortunately, you have to abide by how their legal system works.
Right.
I think the best thing is try not to go to jail when you're in another country.
I think that is.
I hate that, especially if you have security with you. I hate that he physically got into the fight, because when you're an artist of any capacity, you have something to lose. And if you have security, honestly, let them deal with it, and you have to just walk away. Because as an artist, you have something.
Well, see,
to lose.
I watched part of this footage. Supposedly, there is footage of him them trying to back these guys up, and though the people who attacked him literally look like skate punks.
Right?
I'm like, really? I don't know. I just find it's again, this is where social media is so
and my
interesting.
thing is, if you have great, and this is not the This Is Security. I did not watch the whole thing, but of years of working with big artists who had great security, the one thing I realized, that's the difference. That person wouldn't have even really been able to get near to the artist with some of the artists that I've worked with. Right. And that's the key, so that you don't even have that situation. That's really what security is there for. Right. To diffuse any situation before it even has a possibility of happening. Right. But I just wish that for him, because I hate to see this narrative of this young man being overseas, being in jail, the fight, just everything about it. I just don't like this story. Yeah, and I also don't want this. Someone said, "Well, this, he'll come out of it and it'll make him a better artist." I'm like, this is not someone. This is not Meek Mill. I don't think there's going to be this light bulb going and I'm sure with Meek Mill, he will tell you he wishes that never happened.
Oh, of course. Know what I'm saying? No one should have to. No one should have to become politically aware through coercion, which is basically what going, or through punishment. You shouldn't be punished to become politically aware. I don't know a lot about A$AP Rocky. I sort of don't care anything about A$AP Rocky. Right. But I don't see him coming out of this and suddenly doing fundraisers.
I don't see him coming out of this and being different. I don't see him coming out of this and changing his mind or his opinion. But like I said, I'm glad that even though he said all of those things, and I agree with some of the things that people are saying, it's like, but I also am glad to see as a community, it's like just being invested in, we're just going to go get him. He's one of ours. Even if he wouldn't do it for us, we're going to fight to try to get him out. Because that's what community is, right? You even sometimes got to fight for the bad ones.
Yeah, but the thing is, but then that gets into, we're talking about the bad men. That's kind of what kept R. Kelly under wraps, because people didn't, want to, you never want, fighting for him and fighting for Bill Cosby. Yeah, but this shit was going on.
If you work for somebody, I can't even imagine working for somebody and knowing that they were fucking kids. I don't feel like I could stay there and just be like, I just turned my blind eye to
But
this.
Everybody did.
Everybody did.
Come on, anyone who worked at Jive Records or whatever label Kelly was on, everyone knew. That wedding certificate, whatever it's called, the wedding thing, it was on MTV News.
Well, let me just tell you, too. I was at Columbia Records it was the second Crisscross album.
Right. They got two albums.
They did get 2 albums. And Aaliyah, I believe, I can't even remember, it was like Aaliyah, the Brat, them maybe, was on the first single from the second album, and it was one of the first things she was doing. This is when every summer MTV used to have the Beach House.
Right.
And they would do it in different places.
Right.
And I believe this year the Beach House was in Hawaii, and it was one of the first things she was doing after that whole story had come out.
Right.
And, remember her family denied
it.
But what I remember the most was having to set up that shoot. My boss was going to the shoot, and that they had all of this extra security, and they were doing all of this. Like, her whole family came because it was the first thing they were doing to make sure he could not go anywhere near her or be anywhere close to her. And it was a full situation.
Oh, I just want to announce we now have a dog. We have a dog in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
and
puppy.
So cute.
And now he's leaving.
Yeah, he doesn't give any shit about us.
He doesn't give a shit
about
it. He goes,
Aaliyah,
whatever.
He's like, you guys are still there? Great. But yeah, so I just remember all of that around it. And then, but publicly, all of the denials, they were like, they were never married.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, and some people have said this, the genius, and I hate to use that word in connection with Trump, but the genius of Trump is that he's doing everything in plain sight.
And then says
Jeffrey Epstein in plain sight, R. Kelly in plain sight, everybody. R. Kelly literally wrote. He might as well have written songs going, and now I'm gonna fuck the 12-year-old.
Isn't it crazy when you go back now, actually, and you listen to a lot of songs and even the album tracks and stuff, and
They're
listen to the
age
lyrics.
Ain't nothing but a number. Age ain't nothing but a number.
And you listen to the lyrics, and you're like, this. This kind of could mean something fucked up.
Right. You think?
Right. Except it's so hard for me to give up toing, but I've given it up.
I will say one of the good I've never
toing.
I was never a big R. Kelly fan. I reviewed the very first R. Kelly and Public Announcement record.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and
what was that? She's Got That Vibe. Was that it?
Yeah. And I compared it. I wrote him off as a Aaron Hall wannabe.
Okay, now for you kids who might be like, what's an Aaron Hall?
Yes, what is an Aaron Hall?
New Jack Swing. There was a group named Guy. Look them up.
Yes, and Aaron Hall was the shit. All right.
For a long time, he was the shit. Yeah,
he was the shit. But I was like, oh, that R. Kelly, he'll never amount to anything because he just wants to sound like Aaron Hall.
So what do you think the end game is with R. Kelly? Really, what do you think the end game is?
Meaning what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm. And do you think other people around him should go down because people helped him procure those girls? So do you think?
Well, I think anybody who, I think he's running a criminal enterprise, right? I think like Epstein, he's just running a criminal. The difference is that, R. Kelly is doing it in like warehouses in shitty neighborhoods in Chicago, and Epstein has a mansion and an island. Right. It's the same thing. They're running child or in R. Kelly's defense, young women sex slave rings.
Right.
I mean, there's too many people who have come forward and said stuff.
Right.
There's too many people. I mean, if they're going to bring everybody down with R. Kelly, then that means that there are going to be some Sony executives marching off.
Do you think?
You don't think people knew about it?
Yeah, but
they made look. People I'm not saying that whoever was the head co-signed on it, but at some point, it's like being a Trump voter. Okay. At some point, as a Trump voter, somebody had to say, okay, I'm talking about the rational Trump voters, not the fucking idiots, okay? The somewhat rational
I have
ones.
a bunch of friends that voted for Trump. And and they're rational people.
Right. At some point, they had to make the decision to go, all right, he's an admitted sex offender. All right, he's a racist. All right, he this, that, but I can live with that for the greater good.
Right.
Whatever their view of the greater good is.
Right.
At this point, though, as of 2019, July 2019, after what he has now said about the women Congress people, if there is a doubt in your mind that this man is a capital R racist, then there, you know what I mean? I can't even have the conversation with people anymore.
Neither can I, because he's not even a deep racist. He grabs the fruit is hanging so low from the tree that it's scraping the ground.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, what do you mean he's racist? I'm like, he doesn't even dig deep.
No.
He goes to the trope that we've all, if you are a person of color in this country, you've had somebody say some fucked up shit to you, like go back to where you came from.
Well,
I'm always like, Queens?
I know. I saw this woman on actually, it was really a sad statement on this country this morning. I was watching, or it was like CNN or something like that, and it was Frank Bruni, who's a columnist for the New York Times, who's gay.
Do you know Frank?
Do I know him?
Yeah.
No, why?
I was about to say, because you, as a writer, you know all of these people.
I don't know. He's a real writer.
And you also know Jim Farber, who I've been obsessed with for 20 million years. You know I'm obsessed with Jim Farber.
We'll have to get him to come on the show. You're not afraid of him like J-Lo, though, are you?
Oh, no. Frightened of her. Terror.
Jim is also from the Bronx, but he's not scary.
Yeah, I'm
the best.
obsessed with him.
I love Jim Farber.
And I want to have him on so we can talk about
Okay, I don't like the fact that somehow Jim Farber is coming to a conversation where we're talking about a pervert.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
No, it's because of Frank
I
Bruni.
love
Go
Jim
back.
Farber.
So,
yeah, all right. Anyway, please don't do that.
I digress.
Jim, I say, yeah, really. This is how lives are ruined.
Right.
But anyway, so it's Frank Bruni from the Times. This woman who is Russian, whose name I can't pronounce, but she's from Russia, but is a writer. And then this former Congresswoman, Mia Love, who is black.
I know her.
Okay, so anyway, so they were discussing okay. And the Russian woman said, no, she goes, I have had people say to me, go back to your country type of thing, because she's Russian. And Mia Love, who was the black woman, was like, oh, these are regrettable, but I don't want to use the term racist. And Frank Bruni, who is a white man, and of course you don't want to have the white person mansplaining racism to the black people, but God. Everybody was like looking at her through the monitor going, but he just told 4 women of color to go back to their own countries. And what is not racist about that?
And that's when you look at certain people and you're like, there was shit
you're
that was
so brainwashed.
That we all, it's not even that. All of these people are scams. They've become these talking heads where they can explain away everything. And there were things that were always universally disgusting.
Again,
it didn't matter if you were a Republican, didn't matter if you were independent, didn't matter if you were like whatever. There were things that
there were no more norms.
And just now it's like, how some things are indefensible.
Well, I actually saw.
How else do you go back to the country where you came from?
I actually saw there was some Republican guy. I was like, sometimes I wonder if these people are just. He literally said, well, I mean, it's not necessarily racist. Maybe Trump was referring to meaning go back to the districts you represent. Okay, number one, in the tweet, it says the word country.
And he said crime, and it was also like go back to the crime-ridden countries that you came from.
Right.
And da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. And then you have Lindsey Graham, who,
Sold his soul, man.
Well, if he had one. I don't even like when people make fun of Lindsey Graham in terms of being gay, because that would be his redeeming quality as far as I can tell
people, stop shoving them on. We don't want them. They're fucked up. We don't want you.
Right. And Pity Pat. Leave him alone.
We don't want you.
Well, they show footage of Lindsey Graham in 2015 calling Donald Trump a racist and calling him this, and they said that, and now he called those women. I love when people call you a communist and a socialist. Yes. It's like, you can't be both.
Well, don't you love how socialist has become the word? Everybody's like, they want socialism, socialist. And it's just like, please stop with your buzzwords thinking that that's going to work. Because I really do think people are so beat up right now because the election just never stopped.
Well, but you also can't accuse people of being communism and, hate the communists, and then our president is literally sucking Vladimir Putin's dick. So being called a communist clearly isn't that bad a thing. But the point is as we were saying, as we start to wrap up our men, and this will just continue because men will continue to behave badly.
All day, every day.
All day, every day. But the thing, except for my son, of course.
I miss a good bad man from the 70s, 80s scandal. Where it was like cheating, stole all the money from the company. It's really scandalous, on the run.
No.
Some hot mistress that we all didn't know about who pops up with a baby.
McQueen, you know what I'm saying?
Stuff. Yeah. What happened to those scandals? Everything now is like fucking up people's lives, just changing the whole dynamic of everything and not giving a fuck about the fallout to people. It's like, what has happened? I really just don't know what has happened. Where has civility gone?
There is no civility. There's absolutely no civility. There's absolutely no, and we're talking as two coarse people, so it's not even that. I'll tell you something, you and I were discussing this, but all these viral challenges. How's this for a viral challenge? Get off your fucking monkey ass and register and vote. There's your viral challenge.
Here's a new challenge. I like to see you filling out a voter registration form and actually showing up on election day.
I give my students extra credit if they registered to vote, and then if they registered to vote, I excuse the lateness, and if they actually voted, I excused an absence.
Nice, I like that.
I think so.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I mean, I can't tell them who to vote for because that's against
the law.
And
I'm never going to tell anybody who to vote for, but I will say this. I will always say this. At least be part of the process.
No, you have to vote. You can't complain. You can't
you're going to point and say this. Tell me that you were at least part of the process. Because I know during the last elections, there was a couple of really big artists, and one in particular who I remember telling everybody, I don't vote, and you shouldn't vote. It's bullshit.
Who said that?
I'm not even going to say his name.
Yes, you are. Because why? Are you on there? Why?
Because I saw a couple of them do it, and what I remember thinking at that time
wasn't Jay, was it?
Well, no, it wasn't Jay. I remember at that time thinking, the interesting thing about
Was it Puffy?
No, the interesting thing about you telling people not to vote is you're saying it from the stage of an arena.
And from a stage of an arena?
And you...
Was it Kanye?
No, and you...
Well, it is Kanye. He doesn't vote.
He didn't vote. He said something about voting too. But you are going to benefit from these tax breaks, because what everybody keeps forgetting is most artists don't get paid in their name. No. They form corporations.
Oh, of course.
And corporations got permanent tax breaks. So your people are going to, with the amount of money that you're
I'm sorry. Are you talking about hypocritical behavior? Let's just switch the subject briefly, and then we're going to sign off. All right. Courtney, what are we doing on Friday?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's a homosexual earthquake. It's a homosexual earthquake.
Wait. Let me straighten out my outfit. By the way, you like my little caftan?
Let me just say, you've been wearing very cute caftan-y dresses.
That's
that olive one that you had on the other day when you came to my house, I love that. And I love this one, too.
Istanbul. Zara's in Istanbul. It was on sale. It was $5. I ate a lot of baklava when I was on vacation. I ate a lot of baklava. All right.
So on Friday.
All right, so Courtney and I have many things. Courtney and I have known each other for years, as we said, and we decided to do this. And, when you're dating, you start finding out your likes and dislikes. Yes. And it turned out, surprise, surprise, that we both have excellent taste in music.
Yes.
And it turns out that we both love Robin. Now, we're not the only people. It's not like we've discovered some obscure artist and we're the only people championing her. I mean, she is a fairly popular, the woman sells out arenas. It's not like we're so fucking cool that we discovered her. But we liked her even before the Pitchfork crowd.
Show me love.
I interviewed her in 1999.
Nice.
Adorable.
Yeah. Nice.
She's adorable. And I also love the fact that she's never had the teeth fixed.
Yep.
And she lives in a country where they have really good health care.
Yep.
where A$AP Rocky's probably going to be spending the rest of his life getting his teeth fixed. He can get his teeth fixed there,
Actually,
too.
he has really beautiful teeth.
Are those his real teeth?
Oh, no, he's got beautiful teeth. I'll give him that. He's a handsome guy. He's got great teeth.
Well, anyway.
That's what all the girls love him. They love him.
Yeah, he is kind of cute.
Yeah, they love him.
He looks oily. Anyway, he looks like really good sex bad person.
Which is everybody I've ever had sex with in their day.
Aww.
Oh no,
sad face.
If I have sex with you, I hate you. You're usually a terrible person,
but
a great piece of ass.
Courtney, if this show ever goes public, we're gonna get you some therapy.
Listen, this, honey, is ask any gay man. It's like, oh, I hate him. We've had sex all the time.
Oh, Courtney.
Oh, don't feel bad for me, Argentina.
You need a hug. Anyway, Courtney and I have been on this mission to see Robin. You would think. Anyway, we're going to go on Friday.
I'm very excited.
I don't know where the seats are. We got them through my block association. It could be up in a little scary section, but here's the thing. I wear sneakers to a show. Do you wear sneakers to a show?
I always wear sneakers to a show.
Yeah. I don't dress to impress. No. I dress to run down to the front.
Yeah.
So we're going to work it out, but we are very excited that we're going to see Robin. We love Robin. She would be our friend, don't you think?
In my dreams,
I think she would be our friend.
Robin would absolutely be
She'd be our friend. She's very cool. Yeah. I'll tell you what I remember about when I interviewed Robin. And then I interviewed her in 1999. The year was 1999. Mm-hmm. And it was in Stockholm. And I was supposed to meet her at like noon or something for lunch. And Sweden, if you're like 1 minute late, they think and she was concerned. She was worried because I was like 5 minutes late. And she called where I had just been to make sure I was okay.
I love that.
I love her.
I love that. She's amazing.
No. All right. Anything in particular you're listening to?
Well, yeah, I'm actually still listening to Idris Elba Presents the Yardie mixtape. He made this reggae mixtape.
Yeah, I totally He's on the cover of Vanity Fair this month.
And it's a really good reggae mixtape. And I'm also listening to Angel's Pulse, the new Blood Orange mixtape.
I really like him. He's playing Celebrate Brooklyn.
Yeah. Oh, is he?
Yep.
We need to go to that.
We are going to go to that. Dev Hynes seems very strange, but yet I like him a lot.
I like Strange.
Everything he does, I end up really liking. I think he's who Frank Ocean thinks he is.
Kinda, right.
You know,
he's interesting. To me, the music reflects it. No diss to Frank Ocean. I have all of his music.
Yeah, me too.
I love Nostalgia Ultra the best.
More than
the other stuff, it's not really hit me the same way that it hits other people. Yeah. But I like Dev Hynes. I like the work that he does. I like that he's worked with all.
Do you like Sky Ferreira?
I do like Sky Ferreira.
Yeah, I like his stuff with Sky. Yeah. All right, what am I listening to? Nothing, because I've just been, I don't know, I haven't been listening to much music lately.
Right.
Just because it's been too hot, and I feel like if I turn on music, it'll make me sweat more. That makes no sense.
I'm looking.
That
guys,
makes
if you
no
can
sense.
see the look that I just gave her
I know.
The room, like, I need you to explain why that makes sense.
Okay, let me explain this. Everything I feel like is going to make me sweat. It's just too fucking hot. I have a new cat. I don't know what to do. It's just too hot. I can't even think straight. I think the next time we need to talk about our summer TV wrap-up. So that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Because, this weekend is the finale of Big Little Lies. How is it going to all wrap up?
How's it all going to
wrap up?
How many husbands can they push down the steps?
How is it all going to wrap up?
All right,
are we going to get sad Zoe? What's going to happen?
Oh, God. All right, everybody. We didn't talk over each. We're getting good at this. We may have to change the title.
Well, Black Oprah and White Gail, we are getting it together. We are getting it together.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to us.
Until the next one.
Bye.
Peace.
It's NFL draft season, and that means it's time to start thinking about fantasy football. FantasyPoints.com features industry-leading experts and prognosticators using proprietary hand-charted data to help you score more fantasy points. FantasyPoints.com is the place to go for whatever kind of fantasy football you play. Whether you play fantasy football, daily fantasy sports, or do a little bit of everything, Fantasy Points has the meticulously researched content to guide you to victory. And why wait for the fall? Fantasy Points also covers the new spring football league, the UFL. Join the guru, John Hansen, Scott Barrett, Joe Dolan, and other massive names in the fantasy football universe with an exclusive offer. Use code Pantheon for 15% off any Fantasy Points package, including the all-in package with access to every article, tool, and data nugget that Fantasy Points has to offer. That's fantasypoints.com and code Pantheon for 15% off at Fantasy Points. Fantasypoints.com, code Pantheon. Score more fantasy points.